Hey guys, Daniel here with my 1987 125M. This is the second generation of the ATC 125. This engine's a lot different. I'm going to be here doing the valve adjustment, the intake, and exhaust. Let me go over to the other side and show you guys the timing mark for top dead center. If you can see right here in the case, inside the case, above the pull start. Let me see. You guys can see the little T. Yep, there's the T for top dead center. And then let me see if I can go in there so you guys can see there's a little dipper. Let me get a little bit more light on that. Yeah, you see there's the little dipper. So you try to get the little dipper as close as you can to T. As you see, I'm a little off right now, so I gotta move it a little bit more, but just so you get the general idea. So you put it at top dead center, and now we can check the valve clearances. Right now, I'm gonna show you guys what I do to my feeler gauge to get in there, because as you can see, let me show you guys. I'm a pretty big guy, and by big I mean fat, but it's nicer to call it big. So my hands, you know, barely fit here, and obviously I could barely get a feeler gauge in there. Some people just do it by feel, but you know, I'd rather stay true and do it with the feeler gauge. So I'll show you guys a few tricks right now. All right guys, we're at top dead center. We have the manual here that tells us the clearance is 0.08 millimeters or 0.03 inches. Sorry if that doesn't focus right. As you can see, we got the valve here. It's in a pretty awkward location where I can't get my hand in there. So what I like to do is I get the feeler gauge and I give it a little bend. And let's see if we can get in there. Yep, we can get in there. And as you can see, I already loosened it. Let me show you guys. So you see we have a lot of play. The instruction says we want to adjust until it drags. So while the feeler gauge is still in there, let's give her a few turns until we feel it tightening up. Remember, don't go too crazy, because when you tighten the nut, it's gonna get a lot tighter. So now we adjusted it. What we want to do is tighten the nut. You don't want to go crazy, because you're still gonna have to do some final adjustments, most likely. But you do have to tighten it to get an appropriate read on the feeler. So let's snug it up just a bit. All right. Now let's see how the feeler gauge feels. It's dragging, but it feels a little tight. It's supposed to drag, but it feels a little tight for my liking. Yeah, I can barely get it in there, and then when I tighten the nut all the way, it's gonna come get a little tighter. So what I'm gonna do is just loosen the nut just a touch. Now to make up for the tightening, we're gonna come back, and we already know it was a little too tight. So let me see how small of an adjustment. I'm gonna go back out maybe this much. Try to get the nut in by hand first. Okay. Now we'll snug it. That should be pretty tight. Now let's check it again. So now it feels a little too loose for me. So let's go back. Yeah, and the trick is you want to hold the nut while you turn the screw, because if not, if you spin both of them together, you're not making any adjustment. So you see right there, it's just a little tight. So So yeah, you're gonna want to hold the screw down. You're gonna want to hold it with a screwdriver and then lock it down. And remember, you're gonna want it to drag on the feeler gauge. You see right there, it's dragging just a little bit, and then when we tighten it up, should be perfect. All right, that's pretty snug, and we're just slightly dragging, so I'd say that's perfect. All right, that's the exhaust valve. It's gonna be the same process for the intake, so I don't want to bore you guys. Let me just show you guys real quick how I get the feeler gauge in there. And it's the same process. You basically just gotta sneak it down there. Let me see. Not that confident with my left hand. Apparently I'm not with my right hand either. So yeah, it's not easy on these ATCs because the frame is right on top of the valves, but it has to be done. All right, if you can see, I got it in there now, and it's definitely not dragging. It feels loose, so we're definitely gonna tighten that up a little bit. But again, I'm not gonna bore you guys with those details because it's the same process. And you know, we're gonna hold the screwdriver through here, tighten it up, and then lock the nut back down. Hey guys, so I adjusted the valves. Now since I have the manual, I just want to give you guys a little rundown on how to you know, if you took your carburetor apart, took all the air screws, jet screws, everything apart, how to set it back to basically stock so it'll start. We have the manual here, and if you see, sorry if it doesn't focus very well, I'm not sure if it's gonna adjust. Well, let me just read it. It says, turn the pilot screw clockwise until it seats lightly and back it out 2 turns. This is the initial setting prior to the final pilot screw adjustment. Warm up the engine and set the idle speed to 1500. Then turn the pilot screw slowly to engine stops and then back it out 1.5 turns. So basically what we're gonna do is adjust the pilot screw 2 turns out after we tighten it all the way. So let me go now and show you guys the pilot screw and do the adjustment and see if it'll start. All right guys, so as you can see right there, we have our pilot adjust. So like the instructions said, what we're gonna do is go all the way in. All right, now we're gonna go out 1, 2, which is 1 turn, then again 1, 2, which is 2 turns. All right, so that should be set. All right, let's give her some fuel now and see if she starts off. All right guys, we got our little improvised fuel tank here. Let's open her up. All right, she should have fuel. She's in neutral. Let's choke it and see what happens. Definitely editing a lot better. So I think the valves definitely help. Let's give her a few revs. Yep, she's running a lot better. So yeah guys, if your ATC is running rough, you definitely should adjust your valves. This applies for a lot of motorcycles, a lot of ATVs, ATCs. So yeah, hope you guys like the video. Have a good one.